Well, today we're learning more about the proposed school safety improvements in Virginia Beach.
The district's Blue Ribbon Panel presented recommendations to the school board this morning. 13 News Now reporter Allie Weatherton joins us live from TCC in Virginia Beach with a look at the proposals. Allie.
Well, Christina, Superintendent Dr. Aaron Spence says his #1 goal is safety, and that panel looked at everything that had to do with safety. For the past couple months, they went inside every single school and saw what was done well and what needed improvement. Now, the panel consists of the Virginia Beach Police Department, the Navy, and mental health professionals. Today, they presented 11 recommendations to the school board. Those include increasing mental health awareness, training staff for emergencies, and keeping doors locked at all times. Another recommendation was making sure cameras do not have blind spots. Dr. Spence says there's always room for improving. One area he wants to focus on is mental health.
One of the recommendations that we'd like to see pursued is to follow the national standards on mental health support for our schools. For example, that's 1 per 500 students in terms of the recommendation for school psychologists. We're nowhere near that.
Now, Dr. Spence says some of those recommendations do cost money. They would have to go through the school board and then ultimately to the city. Now, some of those recommendations were already in place. He says the school safety, security, they're actually already training for that. Live in Virginia Beach, Allie Weatherton, 13 News Now.
Allie, thank you so much for that report. And tomorrow, a committee of state lawmakers will weigh in on school safety. They will look at what other states have done to keep students safe. They'll also tour a high school in Chesterfield County for guidance on what improvements they can suggest or implement statewide.